Hi everyone, and welcome back to our wellness concept series. We're going to be pushing ahead with week 2 of our series. And remember last week we talked about our rubber band principle, which helps explain why subluxations affect the function of our bodies. But today we're going to be talking about the onion principle and explaining why subluxations have layers and why, if left uncorrected, will lead to further issues and bigger issues later down the track. So let's get started. Remember, big picture, that our bodies are meant to self-heal and self-regulate, right? Our nervous systems are the system that helps make that happen and facilitates that. But when we interfere with that and we cause subluxation of these spinal and misalignments, it affects how well we can adapt to our surroundings and how well we can, one, stay resilient, but two, stay functional. And so what happens when we do end up with these spinal misalignments or these subluxations? Well, let me give you a practical example. Let's just say in my mid-back, I sprain a joint there. Now what happens is there's inflammation and there's tissue damage. But that joint needs to stay stable for it to heal and for all the repair cells to come to the area and repair all that broken tissue. Now, in the event of that, what happens is there's small muscles will sit around the spine that actually become tight and limit movement. But a lot of the time what happens is those muscles actually get tired and aren't able to do the job of stabilization because one, they're not designed to do it, and two, they're not designed to work as much as that. So it recruits a bigger brother. So it recruits bigger muscles on either side of the spine to come into the picture to now stabilize that area. But guess what? Those muscles aren't designed to actually be switched on for such a long time. They are more built for power rather than endurance. They get fatigued and they start recruiting bigger muscles. And those muscles have exactly the same thing. Not built for endurance, but built for power. And before long, what ends up happening is bigger and bigger muscles start to come to the picture, so much so that my spine, instead of it being nice and straight, starts to bow off to the one side. Now, why does that happen? The reason why it happens is because that tightening and that layering effect is a temporary measure. That temporary measure is a coping mechanism for our bodies to not only try and function now, but stabilize that area so it can heal and repair properly. But one of the things that we know is, remember, there's the thing called neuroplasticity, meaning that our bodies adapt to something which we do predominantly. If that temporary measure stays there for a long period of time, it becomes a permanent thing. And that's where this layering becomes an issue, because all of a sudden now this becomes our permanent position. And this over here is very, very incongruent with stability, but more importantly, incongruent with keeping our bodies functioning properly. And so what do we need to do? Well, we need to change that, don't we? And how do we fix it? Well, it comes down to your adjustments. Your adjustments are there to do two things. The first thing it's there to do is to change the local structures. So it's a very mechanical look to it. When we adjust you, we break down the tissue and we start getting things moving again. So instead of it being like this, all of a sudden it starts to move properly, right? And it starts to actually break down the scar tissue or these adhesive tissues that are causing this area to not heal properly. But the second thing that it actually does is it changes nerve function and brain function. Now that actually holds this posture in a particular pattern. Now, once we can change that, your spine automatically goes to activating the proper symmetrical reflexes in our spine, and that helps our bodies stay upright. This is one of the reasons why adjustments build on top of each other. And like that onion, we're peeling back layer upon layer upon layer to try and make sure that we can get your spine back to functioning at its peak again. Because remember that when your spine functions at its peak and stays there, it can not only heal better and regulate better, but it can now stay resilient and strong much more efficiently with the things that we throw at it. So here's my challenge for you. I want you to go away and think about where you are and what's going on with your spine. Do you have this layering effect in your spine? Do you have lots of layers, or do you maybe have little layers? But wherever you are you happy with where you are? And if you're not, well, let's do something about it. Let's get the program started where we can start getting rid of these layers behind all these subluxations and make sure that we can get to a point where they stop layering even in the first place. So look, I hope this video made a little bit of sense and helped get a little bit more clarity as to why there's layers and these layers of compensation within your spine. So look, have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video where we're going to go through my gap theory, which I think is going to be really, really cool. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.